Welcome back to my DISC assessment series. If you haven't seen the intro to the DISC assessment, check that out first. If you have, today we're diving into the high D personality. The high D personality is all about dominance and efficiency. They want to get things done quick and they want to be the ones in control. They are in the top left quadrant of the DISC profile. So they are very outgoing, but they're also very task oriented, meaning that they want to get things done and they're not afraid to make things happen as much as they need to. Think Harvey Specter. This is somebody that walks into a room, doesn't care what anybody thinks, he's there to get the job done. And he will, because he's driven to succeed and he's basically going to do whatever it takes. That is a high D in a nutshell. Now, not all high Ds are going to be quite that intense, but that's a bit of an extreme example. And if you were to say a very high D, it might be similar to that. Let's start off with, how do you identify a high D? Well, there's actually a few things that they do and the way that they are that lets us know that they fall into that category. First of all, they're very driven to succeed and they thrive in the face of challenge. They want to be the ones that solve the problem, which means that a lot of the time they want to take the lead and they want to make sure that things are happening on their schedule. They don't want to follow somebody else. They want to be the ones in control and the ones making things happen as much as possible. One of their biggest pet peeves is feeling like their time is being wasted. This is something that you need to be very aware of, because if you waste their time, it's not going to go very well and they're probably not even going to take your phone calls in the future. They have a tendency to overestimate their own abilities, their own skills, and their own knowledge. And this does sometimes get them into hot water, but they're usually able to figure things out and get out of it because they're very resourceful and they don't give up easily. Now, this last point can make high Ds a little bit harder to identify because they're actually very good at being chameleons. They can act as a high I, C, or an S. They can adapt to other personalities when they need to, assuming that they want to and they've made the decision to do so. So now that you've identified that your client is a high D, what are you going to do to make sure that you're communicating with them properly and that you're able to build that rapport and establish that relationship that will actually lead to you guys working together rather than them getting tired of you and not picking up your phone calls anymore? Make sure to amp up your confidence as much as you can. If they are asking you a question, you need to have an answer immediately. You don't want to be fumbling through with a bunch of pieces of paper or taking too much time to think about it or just being in general uncertain. Show them that you're confident, show them that you know exactly what you're doing. The challenge with this, of course, is that you have to come extremely prepared. This is why it's critical for you to over-prepare anytime that you're meeting with a D client. You need to know everything about the house, the area, and the market. If you don't, you're going to be losing points with that person. Avoid going into too much detail. High Ds don't need to know everything. They don't want to know everything. They want to know the most important things, and they don't want to be overburdened with a bunch of information that doesn't actually help them make a decision. So if you're a high C in particular, make sure to tone it down and focus on the things that are very important. Make sure to stay on the task. Some amount of small talk is always necessary because we have to build relationships and we have to make sure that there's some social connection. With a high D, too much social banter is not going to help you. They're there for one thing only, and that's to get things done. They're not there to learn about you or your dog or your family. And while a little bit of that kind of flavor can help, you don't want to overdo it and you want to focus on the task and making sure that we're doing it 100% in a way that's going to help them get what they want. High Ds are allowed to be late. You're not. Just get used to it. When a high D is late, it's because they were very busy. When you're late, it's because you didn't properly manage your time. Don't make a big deal out of it, just learn to live with it and show up a little bit early. What it all really boils down to is that you need to be able to show the high D what you're going to do for them, that you're going to get things done quickly, efficiently, and you're going to get them the best results possible. Now, if you happen to be a high D, there's a few key things that you want to keep in mind when you're communicating with other people. Remember, we are naturally best when we're dealing with people who are the same DISC profile as us. And if we're dealing with people who are not the same DISC profile, we have to adapt or else we're not speaking to them the way that they want to be communicated with. And we're not making our best effort with those people. So make sure to slow things down and let people go at a pace that they're comfortable with. As a high D, you can move very quickly. You can make very quick decisions and it's not a big deal for you. But for some other people, some other DISC personalities, they might not be comfortable with that and they will feel like you're pressuring them to go faster than they want to, and they might stop taking your calls and they might feel that you're too much of a salesman. They don't want to work with you. Don't let your irritation show. Make sure that you have a filter in place. If you're angry, upset, or if something's taking too long, don't let that simply come out, because when people see that, they're not going to want to be around you. And as a high D, you are more prone to this. And this is something that we need to be aware of so that you can make sure that you're coming off in the best light possible with people. That wraps up this video, and remember, high Ds are abrasive, but they get things done. And if you help them with their goals, they're going to take your calls and they're going to continue to work with you.